Path Solutions has over 2 decades of experience building network monitoring systems designed to give you total network visibility. TotalView's automation means it can be fully deployed and configured in minutes, monitoring every device, interface, and server in your entire infrastructure. And it goes deep, collecting performance, configuration, 19 different error counters, PoE, and QoS statistics on every single interface. Now, all of this information is automatically analyzed to produce plain English answers. Problems get solved faster because more information and intelligence is brought to bear. This is what total network visibility is all about, knowing more about your network than with any other solution. TotalView is easy to acquire, as everything is included in the core offering: NetFlow, diagramming, path mapping, server monitoring, network automation, IPAM, cloud service monitoring, and more. Putting your trust in a monitoring system can require a leap of faith. From inception, TotalView has a more secure architecture and build process that helps to protect their customers. Contact Path Solutions today, where you can learn more about their competitive upgrade program, Total Network Visibility, rapidly deployed. Find out more at www.pathsolutions.com. That's it. That's a surprise. I see. Well, hey everyone, welcome. We're back.
That's right.
And Tony apparently keeps going down the path of Amish cosplay.
Sure. Now, have you ever seen what a $5 bill looks like?
It looks about like that. Yeah. This is
that's it. That's the guy. That's
the guy right there. Oh man. So Tony gets on before the show and he's like, let me show you. Oh wait, no. I'm going to surprise you. And this is it. You can't seriously intro the show when you do stuff like that, Tony. You just can't be serious about it.
That's why there's the dynamic. That's why there's the dynamic.
That's the fun of the live stream. This isn't the formal thing like the podcast. This is the place where we can just screw off and not do things professionally.
That's right. We can, it's where we vent.
Sure.
And sometimes venting is just goofing off.
Venting, man. So so how you been, man? You said you had a good day. Busy day, but good day.
Yeah, I had a good day. It was a busy day. I got no complaints. I mean, we didn't get together last week, and that was okay. But I'm trying to think if I did anything interesting lately. I don't know. I finally got my home network. I finally had that planned outage. I don't know if I talked about that already last time, but yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with everything. So I don't know. Oh, the CTF. Oh, I did a little CTF recently, the Cisco CTF. I want to talk about that a little later. And signed up for Cisco Live.
Okay.
What else? I talked with the guys from Hexabuild, Ed Horley and Scott Hogue about IPv6 training. And they got some good training. I'm getting really excited. I'm going to sign up for one of them. Really impressive. So yeah. I definitely need to brush up on my IPv6 chops. And if you don't do it every day, if you're not in the space, you probably do too. So go get trained. And so I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully soon I'll be able to give a little review from that. Have those guys on IPv6 goodness.
Yeah, Ed's been fairly present in the Slack lately. So yeah, I like that. Like having Ed around.
Yeah, he poked his head up today. Oh, you know what? You know what he's asking about? He's asking about, how do you connect zero tier to your EVNG server? I'm like, got you, bro.
I did see that there was a whole chat about that. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I think there might be some videos out on YouTube for sure.
Yeah, he was asking today about some zero tier access controls, I think, for users. And so that's pretty cool. I'm sure he's working on some cool use case, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. I see we've got quite a few people out watching the stream. So why don't you all let us know how you're doing? Like, let us know what's going on in the chat. We always tell you what we're up to. I want to hear what everyone else is up to. Today was a crazy day, so I'm exhausted. Just absolutely, utterly exhausted. I didn't get any sleep last night. So a few weeks ago, I think I told you that I'm buying an RV, right? and that this has been a plan. In fact, I did this back in February. I put money down and was like, hey, yeah, let's buy an RV. And nearly 2 months after I did that, we learned something that basically said that the RV that we chose wasn't going to work for us. So the order is into the manufacturer, and it's essentially $100,000 vehicle that if I don't get stopped like before production, I'm kind of committed to buying, or at least losing a lot of money because I put a huge deposit down on it. And I'm like, so I didn't sleep very much because we were trying to figure out what the plan was, had no idea how today was going to work or how that was going to play out. And it turns out that everything worked smoothly. The dealer was super gracious and everything. And made it all happen. So like there was nothing to stress about, but I was completely stressed out last night. And because of that, both me and my wife didn't get any sleep. So both of us are just like living on caffeine today. Yeah, it was just one of those.
I just want to back that up for a second and say, so I know we had talked about it. And in fact, in a private conversation, you had showed me like the commercial on the website or the little walkthrough of the unit. So that one wasn't built yet?
No.
So you bought something that wasn't built?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was supposed to be ready for you by a certain date, or it was planned to take this long? No,
we knew it was going to take this. So, okay. So first off, welcome to a pandemic where everybody's buying RVs. Also, welcome to me being a bit picky and knowing exactly what I wanted. Although apparently in this one, did not know exactly what I wanted. I'll come back to that in a second. I'll explain it. But I knew exactly what I wanted. And the problem is there was no stock of this particular model of exactly what I wanted. And I'm like, if I'm going to spend this kind of money, I'm not just like, compromising and buying what's available. Like I'm buying what I want. It's like buying a house. Like, you don't just compromise because it's like, that's what's there. Like you get what you want and you do it once. And so, so, yeah, it was an order. And the way that I figured this out, this is all new to me too. Like I learned that when the RV manufacturers, when they make RVs, they do them in cycles. So every RV manufacturer makes like, a dozen or more models at minimum. And what they do is they'll produce one model, and then they'll move to the next one and produce the next model and move to the next one and do that in series. And so every order that's in for a particular model gets all produced over a particular period of time. If your order comes in at the tail end or after yours just got produced, it has to wait for the next cycle, right? Until it comes back to your model being produced again. And I guess that's apparently where I hit in this, as I hit just after they had released a bunch, because it was going to be May. It was going to be May. And so like, as we're getting to April, I was starting to talk to the dealer some more, started asking a couple more questions, and all of a sudden the light bulb went on. And this is a light bulb. It's actually about safety. It's about seatbelts. Maybe I'm naive. I'm definitely naive because I didn't know this. But in looking at this, I mean, I just assumed the seatbelts were seatbelts, just like they are in a car, not in an RV, not in a motorhome. The only seatbelts that are actually seatbelts, like are rated the same way that car seatbelts are rated, are in the cab. Everything back in the cabin, it's a facade. Like it's really actually quite scary. It's quite scary that these things exist this way. I never dreamed that this would be the case. But essentially the seatbelts that are in the back, like at the dinette and anywhere else in the RV, they could be literally attached to plywood in some of these. Some are better than others. Ours wasn't plywood, but it was a metal frame that was attached to the wood floor. So like, it's not going to take the force of an accident. It's just not going to happen. And so from a safety perspective, it was really, really bad. I've got 3 kids and 2 who are in car seats. And I was really starting to look into the logistics of like, how do you attach these things? And it's when I started doing that research that I learned you don't. And so what we learned is basically that this RV that we had like, hey, we were all so excited about, I was never going to be able to travel with my family. Period. End of story. I would drive the RV. They would drive another car, and that would be it. There was no ever coming back together.
It depends on the day, but that might be a blessing.
We're talking about a 2-month road trip. That's a long time to be driving by yourself, a big vehicle without much interaction. So yeah, that was interesting to learn. So we completely shifting gears, and now we're going to a travel trailer. And so today was like, hey, guess what? I guess I'm buying a truck. and I've got to figure out how to buy a truck and what I'm buying and what I want and what I need for that. And we moved over to a different travel trailer, same company, dealing with the same dealer. So, I mean, they were awesome in that they just took my deposit, moved it over to the one. They're like, we'll just bring this one back to the lot and we'll sell it as a stock one. I'm like, fantastic. So very, very cool. But yeah, it was a little stressful as I'm going, oh crap. Like, what have I done? And I'm gonna lose thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah, it was a bit. So yeah, that was my day today. That was how my day started, or actually how my day ended yesterday into when I could deal with it today. And of course it was just super distracting all day. So it was very hard to focus as I'm getting calls from the dealer in the middle of meetings for work and all of that. So yeah, that was my day today. Otherwise it's good. Last week we postponed. Last week just kicked my butt from a work perspective. And we got to Wednesday. I was just exhausted. It's like, all right, well, we'll do it. We've done that before. Both of us have just kind of pushed through and said, hey, don't really feel like it, but we're going to make it happen. In fact, I'm kind of there again tonight. But last week was just because work was just killing me. I mean, it was just typically my work is not that bad. It's not, I have no complaints about how much work my work is, but every once in a while you have one of those weeks, right? It's just what it is. And I got to Wednesday and we actually had Darren lined up for last week. And he had a big thing happen. He's buying a house. So, and some things came up and he couldn't come on. I'm like, all right, that's it. That's the last catalyst I needed. We didn't cancel because Darren didn't show, but that was like just like the last straw for me. And I'm like, okay, let's just take a week off. Now, when we started this thing, it was like, hey, like, let's plan to take some breaks here or there. Let's not commit ourselves to too much. Let's not do every week. Here we are. We're, getting towards the end of March and we haven't missed a week, which is cool. It's great. I have no problem with that, but I also have no problem with taking a week off. So I'm glad we did.
I was going to say, we made no promises to anyone, other than, well, not even to ourselves for wanting to do this every week. It just so happened that we made it happen. Right. And also last Wednesday, I was at a family birthday. Mm-hmm. Me and my brother-in-law, his family, and my mother and father-in-law, we all live like maybe a mile from each other. And we have all been what you call double bubbling, where like we don't go anywhere. We don't go to grocery stores. We don't go to the mall. We don't go everything. We get everything delivered for 2 weeks so that we're able to actually mingle with each other. Mm-hmm. Because we're taking coronavirus very seriously. Everyone has their own health issues in each household. And this was a family member's birthday, and we were all double bubbling together. So we decided we're going to do a real birthday, cake, the whole thing. And I told them, I said, hey, I can come to the birthday, but I have a live stream I got to do. So I'm going to leave at like 7:00. And I was over there when I was messaging you, and you said, how about we just, I just can't, let's just cancel. And I was like, okay. And you know what?
Done.
I felt great.
That's good.
It felt great just to have that Wednesday off and just hang out with family. First of all, it's sort of like the first time I've actually hung out with like more than one person. So hanging out with another family, it was great, and it has been a blast. So thanks for the lovely break last week, Jordan and Darren. I appreciate it, and thanks for everyone for sticking with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, last week, and it was a weird lineup week too. So like my family had gone to my mother-in-law, so my wife's mom, and kind of same scenario. Both families very much, kind of staying away from public altogether. And they're one of the few people that we've, or she's one of the few that have kind of been within our circle. And so they went up to go visit. They went up over the weekend. They came back on Tuesday. And so there was prep and then the live stream. And then we had something Thursday night. And it was like, I was not going to actually see my kids from like the previous Saturday until the following Friday if we had that live stream. And so when I came downstairs, I said, why don't I just not do the live stream? Like, you would have thought I was handing out like $1,000 bills or something to my kids. They were so excited, got to spend some time together.
That's great.
Yeah. So they were super pumped. And like, we watched a Marvel movie or something. Like it was not like, it was exactly what I needed. It was very low key, but it was good. So yeah, but here we are.
For us, it was Thai food and birthday cake.
Oh,
and it was just what I needed.
Thai food sounds good. I need to get some Thai food. So here we are. We're here this week. I think this week's going to be a bit of a light week, even on top of last week being out. I'm super excited. We do have Darren O'Connor with us, and we're going to get to him in a few minutes. He's going to be on here talking about BGPstuff.net, which is cool. A very cool looking glass server. And then you're going to show some stuff that you've been working. We've got Naked Hardware. No trivia today. Sorry if people are disappointed, but I just didn't have time to put together questions. Mm-hmm. But I'll use this as a great opportunity to solicit help. So if you have fun trivia questions, things that you think would be fun to ask as part of that, either technical or non-technical, doesn't matter. Please do send them my way. You can either hit me up in the Slack if you're a supporter of the show. And if you're not, you can send it to me, Jordan@networkcollective.com. Happy to field that. Would absolutely love to have trivia questions added because it doesn't sound like a lot, but coming up with like about 25 questions per week, it turns out that you exhaust your core knowledge and access to regular trivia. Pretty soon, I'm just going to start buying trivia sets and just like, here's the card. That's the question. That's what you get. So unless I start getting some inspiration from some other people here. So if you have any fun trivia sources or places to point me towards, let me know.
Yeah, it is definitely challenging contributing to the trivia. It's a lot of fun, but here's my approach. Okay, so nobody has to do this. But if you find yourself researching a topic, a networking topic, a cool techie topic, anything off the wall, you find yourself researching something, you're on Wikipedia and you find a cool fact or a cool year that something happened or something where you just go, that's interesting. That becomes a trivia question. It's that easy. All you got to do is just think of that fact in the form of a question and submit your answer over to Jordan or myself. Happy to do it. So we have a running spreadsheet where we all add questions to, and that's how we come up with the question pool. And I've added a couple recently based on some research that I was doing about time units. So that's all I'll say. I say, you want to know what trivia questions might be coming up? Go study your time units.
Interesting.
All the way into things I can't pronounce.
Nice.
No, but it's a fun project, and it's something that I'm trying to do just to wrap my head around network performance. Actually, I'll kind of talk about this just for a little bit. I'm really trying to wrap my head around network performance. Chris Greer's talk, who we had on the show, a month and a half ago or so? Yeah, a month and a half. And he gave a pretty good deep dive into TCP, just the TCP header. And actually, he didn't even cover all the aspects of the TCP header, really. He just gave sort of like a part one of what could be a many-part series. So go check out his training. It's definitely worth it. But every time I talk to Chris or I see his videos or I get inspired by him, I'm always driven towards sort of network performance. And what can we derive from packet captures? And what I was trying to break down is just some basic math, okay? For example, everyone can submit an answer in chat. I won't check it. This is not a trivia thing, but submit an answer in chat. For a 1 gigabit per second link, how long does it take to write 1 byte on the wire? That's the kind of math I was trying to figure out, right? So if you got 1,000 byte packet, how long does that actually take to transmit on the wire? And then how long does it take to actually travel from A to B, right? Because there are all these sort of, I'm calling them micro delays. They really don't, that's not a real term, but there are all these little tiny delays that add up along the way. Think about your switches or your routers, for example. If your switch is doing, store and forward, right? Routers are already doing store and forward. If your switches are doing store and forward, they have to receive the entire packet before they can transmit it again on the next link, right? So there's a whole bit of time where they have to buffer the entire packet where it has to catch up to itself before it can transmit again. And so think about how many switches your packets go through, and they're just adding, microseconds or even nanoseconds to the overall travel time. And no, you wouldn't be worried about that if that happened in one flow at one time, you happen to catch it in a PCAP. But it just kind of goes back to we drill into fundamentals. How would you know if you're suffering a performance issue by looking at a PCAP if you don't actually know how to do the math for how long does it take to write 1 byte on a wire? How long should that 1 byte take to transmit to go from A to B wherever A and B is? What would be the optimal time? Now how much is it degraded? And sort of, is that measurable? Should you be able to see that? Should you be able to feel it in the system? So that kind of got me on a whole tangent of studying units of time.
Right.
And how actually small it takes.
Yeah. When you start measuring at that level, all of a sudden you're measuring, units you don't typically talk about. That reminds me of a chat, a really, really great session done at Tech Field Day by Nick McCown, who is he's been part of several major startups that have landed well. He's also one of the leads of the computer networking group at Stanford. So really, really smart dude. And at the time he was, and I don't know if he's still associated with him or not, but he was at Barefoot Networks. And so Barefoot is known for programmable ASIC and being able to basically, take that ASIC and do custom functions. And one of the examples they gave was telemetry as it related to exactly what you were talking about. And the idea is you can essentially attach a timestamp to a piece of data as it enters the switch, attach a timestamp as it finishes the ingress, attach a timestamp as it starts the egress, and another timestamp as it fully egresses, and then report all those timestamps back. So you would know exactly what your serialization delay is for putting something on the wire like that everywhere, and then track that. So you would know if there was a problem. It was a really interesting use case. It would be very interesting in the place of high frequency trading where, you get down to every nanosecond or even more matters. I should say even less.
Yeah.
Right?
I was thinking even like a scientific or a research network, that's truly measuring the time of data. So
where those delays could have impact on scientific readings, you have to know exactly how long it took to get from point A to point B or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of interesting use cases where that level of accuracy might be interesting. So just as a since it was brought to attention, that talk was about why programmable, forwarding planes, why we need them. It was kind of it was the overall pitch for this is why you should care about this. And it was probably one of the best 40-minute summarizations of a technical topic I've ever seen. The guy is an amazing communicator. And so definitely worth watching. Go to Tech Field Day, search for Barefoot or Nick McCown. It's one of the most popular sessions that they've ever done. And I recommend it to people go watch it every time it ever comes up, because it's just one of those amazing 40 minutes of someone relating technology in a really, really capable way. And you can learn how to be a communicator. You can learn the delivery and how that felt, but you also learn a lot about the technology as well. It's something to aspire to for sure. It was great.
I'm not sure if this is the one. I'm on Tech Field Day's website. Benefits of a programmable data plane.
That sounds about right.
That must be it.
Nick McCown,
Network Field Day 4.
That sounds right.
I'm gonna paste that in the chat.
There you go.
Looks like it went through. Let me know if you guys can see that in the chat. That's the link to the Tech Field Day page where that video is hosted. Looks like a good one. I'll put it on the watch list.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worth the time, and I think you'll walk away kind of blown away, both by the capacity and how he speaks and presents it, and also in the technology itself will get you excited. Just for point of reference, that was when Barefoot was independent. They've since been bought, I believe, by Intel, and so that's it'll be interesting to see how Intel uses that technology. It's already starting to come out. Some of the stuff they're doing with Barefoot, Tofino, and P4. So it's a good deal. Tony, you have anything else going on, man?
No, I was just typing in the chat. I was working on the Cisco CTF. I want to talk about that a little bit. That's been a lot of fun. So I recommend If you like CTFs, if you like packets, this one is Cisco's virtual CTF that they're hosting for this year for Cisco Live. It's open to everyone in the public. You don't have to be a Cisco Live attendee. You don't have to be an all access pass holder. You can just sign up on the site and go. I'll see if I can grab that link.
Is it individual or is it team based?
Individual, and they have a couple of different CTFs. I'm trying to sort of resolve the game here. They have a couple different domains. Here we go. This is the one. I'll paste this in the chat as well, guys. This is a lot of fun. So it's Cisco Live 2021.letsplayctf.io. And they have a couple of CTFs. So there's an enterprise networking CTF, and there's a couple of highlights there. Network assurance, automation, DNA spaces, BYOD, Thousand Eyes, and more. So I assume that's going to place you as an operator or an engineer in an enterprise network. And you probably have to pull artifacts, what port is this MAC address connected to? Or which AP is this, or which SSID is this MAC address joined to, which AP? These sort of things that you would typically have to do throughout your day as an operator and engineer. I don't actually know about that one. I'm just speculating. How else would you make a CTF?
That's kind of what I was wondering around network engineering. That.
Yeah. So whatever it is, it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to hop on that when I can. I jumped naturally straight to the security one. I'm always a little skeptical whenever I mention Cisco and security in the same breath. And it's because when Cisco teaches security, they teach Cisco's security products, right? And the way to configure and operate Cisco's security products. But that's also very different than the entire security landscape that exists out there when you start getting into, multi-vendor security boundaries and products and features and services, right? It's not an all Cisco all the time, all over the world, at least not in my planet. And so when I see that, I'm kind of like, is this going to be like an ASA or a firepower thing? Am I going to have to be an expert in this? This one, when you click on the link, it'll actually take you to a pretty nice web page that they have. Let's see if I can at least demo the web page. If I can, hang on. I don't know if I can. No.
You still with me, Tony? Give him a second. I don't know what happened there. So see, Jair's in house. Jair, I hope I said that right. You helped me with pronunciation not too long ago. It's good to see you, man. I see Thomas. Thomas is there. Thomas is he said 1:25 in the morning, man. That's early. So early. So
what the heck, man?
I don't know what happened to you.
I misclicked something and it joined the call twice. And when you join the call twice, it kicks out your original call.
Oh, okay. You kicked yourself
out. I kicked myself out. Anyhow, I was trying to pull up a screen share so I can just show you guys what the dashboard looks like. Cisco did a great job on the dashboard. This is a really fun, sort of interactive CTF. I'm not going to share any answers. I'm not going to do a walkthrough, but I kind of just want to share the experience. It's definitely like beginner friendly. If this is not your forte and you just kind of want to try it out, definitely try this one out. It's a lot of fun. This one, let's see. This is the security one that I'm logged into. It's called Advanced Security, and this is open to anybody, anyone and everybody. You create an account on this website. I'm Show IP Interface Brief. You want to track me on there. And let's see how to play. You click on missions. And Know Your Packets is the first mission. It's highlighted right here. So it's a pretty nice website, got a lot of graphs and stuff. And when you click on it, here's your mission right here, your secure message. There's been a breach, Cisco's threat intelligence, gives you some perimeter PCAPs. And here's a PCAP, right? So you download this PCAP file. It's pretty cool. And you just parse through it through any tool that you want. Wireshark's fan favorite, right? A lot of people are going to jump straight to that. But there's other tools you can use as well. and you jump right down, and and not all of these flags are sequential, but some of them are, which means sometimes one flag is dependent on solving the one before it. Like it won't unlock, and I'll show you an example of that. But for example, the first one is ops have been receiving reports of strange ICMP traffic. Find the flag in the ICMP traffic. So again, it starts you off sort of very beginner, very user-friendly. Hop on Wireshark, plug around, search for ICMP, and see what you can find. This is how I got started. I absolutely love the needle in the haystack hunt. That's what this is. It's a hunt. And it gradually gets a little bit harder as you move on. Okay. There's a lot of clear text stuff in the beginning, and it gets more into encoded and encrypted things as you move down. There's a couple of them that I'm stuck on, you know. I claim to be very good at using these tools, and I'm pretty good at using the tools, but there's a couple of these that aren't that hard, but I'm stuck on. And some of them, I'm convinced that I have the flag and it won't paste in, which is always a fun challenge when you do a CTF. You're like, it's not me, it's the dashboard. It's definitely me. For example, here's one about SMTP, right? Spam message transfer protocol.
Sounds about right.
Right? Difficulty 4 stars. I haven't solved this one, although I think I do have the answer. It won't accept it. This flag is locked by this one, so I can't even do number 11. I can't even see what it is until I solve that one. So there's sort of like dependencies. If you look down here, number 14 is also locked by the spam message transfer protocol. So I can't even take a peek at those until I solve this one. So that really makes the game just a lot of fun. So if anyone wants to go ahead and try it, hop on there. There's a scoreboard up here. I checked it today, and I was a little upset about my placement. Yesterday, I was at about 23, and today I even got bumped since I've been talking here. I'm down 33 with 98 points. So that's me down there. Yeah, hop on. It's a lot of fun. So a couple of people have solved all of the flags and taken no hints and got full points. So 500 points would be your perfect score so far. And after Cisco Live, they're going to open up the second mission, which says here, first of all, this is the preview content. This is the PCAP one. This is the one I'm doing now. It's open to everybody. If you are an all access pass holder, and I am, they will unlock a new one April 5th. So that'll happen after Cisco Live. So I'm really awaiting this one. I can't wait to see what they're going to throw at us. Looks like a lot of fun. And I have a suspicion, I think what I've seen is that this CTF, this packet capture, was created by the Cisco team in Europe, the Cisco security team in Europe. I'm trying to think what they're called. I forget the name they give themselves out there, but similar to like the Talos group, what the Talos group is here, but they have one for the European folks out there, and I think they made this challenge, which is a lot of fun. So crack it open, get the PCAP, open Wireshark, and have fun.
That looks.
I will tell you. Go ahead. You had a question?
No, it's not a question. That looks like a lot, like it's just like a lot of fun. Like typically, I'm not into these like CTF type things. It's just not the same passion about it like you have. Just showing me this. There's two things, Tony. First, I need another hobby. Like I need someone to punch me in the face. That's what I need. Right. I need both of those equally the same, which is to say I don't need another hobby at all, but this looks like fun. I'll have to give it a try. The even bigger motivator is the fact that you haven't solved some of them. So now I want to go solve them before you do. Like it's just, I just want to.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I tell you what, I have some of them queued up in a Notepad++. This is how I sort of see. I do so many of these that I've even have a system for like taking notes as you work through a challenge. I won't show you the notes because they still have flags that are pending. Again, these are flags that I found, but for some reason I can't enter them into the dashboard, and I really don't know where to go for help on what might be the problem there. So if anyone knows, send me an email, tony@networkcollective.com. Find me on Twitter. I'd love to complete this one, but nice. I can't even show my notes right now because I don't want to give away any answers. I don't want to get disqualified. This is a fun one, and they ask you not to share answers and don't do your write-ups and stuff like that till after the event.
Of course.
So that's what I've been working on. So I put a couple hours in. It's one of those things that, I mean, it's not just this, it's just all events like this. And why I absolutely love them is like, once you get started, you're like, your head down and you're just figuring it out and you're doing it. And like, you get up and you're like, what day is it? Like, how long have I been, did I miss dinner? How long have I been here? And time just seems to fly. And yes, I probably put maybe 2.5 hours into, I don't know, what is that, 10 flags maybe so far? So it was a lot of fun. And you get to dig through packets. So again, it just gets you a little more practice, with Wireshark, which is what we're going to be using when if there's an incident, if we want to actually check out performance issues, if we want to verify things on the wire, we're going to Wireshark. So why not be prepared with the most experience possible?
I want to talk about since we're talking about Cisco Live, I got a couple things to mention, and I think we should definitely get to Darren. This year, it's been a little strange. There's kind of a strange intersection between work and personal and whatever. But Cisco Live obviously been. I went back and looked. I've been going to Cisco Live since 2012. So I'm coming up on. Well, this is my 9th year and will be 10th year next year, right? And so that was a little surprising. It definitely doesn't feel like it's been that long. And Cisco Live obviously coming up, I think, next week. And WWT, right? So who I work for is like covering a lot of the content and trying to provide some like independent analysis of some of the stuff that's going on. It's out there. So if you haven't heard enough of me, which is highly unlikely if you're sitting here watching this show, you've probably heard plenty of me. But if you're looking to hear more of me, and if you are, I'm so sorry. That's what brings you satisfaction. But if you're looking to hear more of me and specifically around like what's going on with Cisco Live and specifically this year, WWT has some coverage. So you can go there, WWT.com, and search for Cisco Live. I think it's WWT.com/Cisco-Live. I have a couple of pieces of content there, and I'm going to be hanging out there. So if you are actually like attending and watching and you want to chat, that's probably where I'll be, primarily that, the Network Collective Slack. So just calling those things out. So there's a cool little community that WWT is putting together for that, which is, typically I don't plug my work stuff when I'm here, but this is actually one of those things that I think is actually kind of cool. They're doing it just for customers and whatever, and just kind of a place to engage since we don't get to do it in person. So that was pretty cool. So I thought I'd give a call out to that. So with that said, man, why don't you introduce our guest?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So our guest this evening is going to be Darren O'Connor, the gentleman who is behind BGP stuff, which is my favorite BGP Looking Glass right now. So Darren O'Connor, there you are. You're live on screen. Welcome.
It's the last one you'll ever need, or what did we say? What was our overhyped? Yeah.
The BGP Looking Glass, the last BGP one you'll ever need.
Hey,
Darren, did you see the graphic that Jordan made for this episode?
No, I have not. Where do I see that?
Oh man, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. How's it going, Darren?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Glad to be here, actually. And how about you guys?
Excellent.
We're doing all right.
House is all settled.
Good. Yes. So we kind of got quite a bit of time where we have, I think our rental is also until the end of April, but we also have the house now. So we've been just moving backwards and forwards, little by little. I think the big move is sometime mid-April we planned. So yeah, it's going to be, moving is always terrible. I hate moving, but when it's over, it's nice.
So you got one of the nice cages in Equinix there, or is that? No, you said you moved around Ashburn, right? So I mean, like that's just like the epicenter of all of networking technology on the East Coast, and so I feel you're living in a colo somewhere, right? Like that's. If it's not, you turn your house into a colo and make some money because that's what you do in Ashburn.
That's true, yes.
And if I can get internet service from you, I could ditch these other
Right. So Darren, man.
Yeah, I kind of wanted. I was going to say I kind of wanted to bring up BGPstuff.net. I think I found it one day. Maybe I saw you plugging it, or it was someone plugging it probably 6 months ago or more. It seems like a long time. And I stumbled upon it and I was like, finally a looking glass that we can just interact with. Like I got tired of, the AT&T and the HENet, the ones that give you sort of a screen scrape, a reduced command. Like I don't know the commands I want to run. I just know the information I want to find. And so I had found this, and when I did, it just so happened like the next day I needed to look up some prefixes that should have been originated from one AS, and in the global table were being originated by another AS. And so we had to look and sort of solve that. Yeah.
That never happens. What are you talking about?
And it just so happens I use bgpstuff.net, and I was working remote at the time, so I wasn't next to my buddy, and I was able just to copy the URL and paste it in chat. My friend could click the link, open it up, and see the exact thing, right? He didn't have to log into a route server anywhere, mess with commands. We didn't have to do that. I was able just to share a link and give him the same output. And that was super cool. That was before I realized what the real special functionality of your site is. And I'll get to that in a second, but I have found it so dirt simple for very simple use cases. You want to look something up, I go there first, and often it's the last looking glass I need to look at. I don't need to look at another. Now, when I say there's more to it than what meets the eye, when you go to the website, and I just pasted the link there for anyone who hasn't seen it in the chat, it's a pretty basic website, which I love as well. It makes it very easy to interact with and very easy to navigate. It also makes it very quick, right? There's not a lot of stuff to load. So there's a lot of things you can search for. It's dirt simple. But then if you click over at, I think, if we go to like dev, there's the dev button in the menu, which is very cool. And let's see, you have Python modules there.
That's right. Yeah.
So again, we can install and interact with stuff via modules or even via APIs, right? Which is something like I can't do with AT&T's Looking Glass. I can't do with HENet with the Hurricane Electric. I have to use their web-based view. So it is very, very awesome here. And diving into the APIs is something I haven't needed to do yet. But if I was in a position where I needed to sort of constantly check for maybe a prefix, maybe I wanted to check for my own prefix, or maybe I wanted to check for my customer's prefix somewhere, and I don't have a full BGP table of my own. Maybe I'm a managed service provider of some kind with limited view. I would be pinging this. I'd write a little script that can ping this, every so often and say, show me the AS path of this prefix, show me the AS path of this prefix. And I could diff the two. And if there's a difference, throw a flag, throw an alert, throw a syslog, do something on my own systems. I mean, sort of the automated possibilities are endless with this. And I'm absolutely fascinated. So I have a couple of big questions. I want you to sort of walk us through the site a little bit, or talk us through the site. And I kind of want to know, like, why did you build it? Like, aren't there enough looking glasses out there? Now, I'm very happy that you did. But like, didn't we already have enough? What was sort of the, why put your energy into something when there's already so many out there? What was the driving force? And then give us a little peek behind the curtain. What runs this site, and where do you get your BGP peering from? Where does the data actually come from?
Yeah. So I've actually been running a BGP daemon for, 8 years. And this was because I was originally getting some information together for my Twitter bots, which kind of, tweet the BGP 4 and BGP 6 table size every 6 hours. And a couple of years ago, I rewrote all that code from Python into Go. And at the time I was thinking, there's actually a lot of information here. I would like to actually do something more with it. So I was thinking about, what other information is interesting, and as you said, I use looking glasses quite a lot. It's interesting sometimes not just to see, you see an IP address, who originates this IP, which is the AS number, what is the AS path, what communities does it have, is it a valid, especially these days, is it signed row valid, right? And I was like, I can actually get all the information. I just need to now somehow, create a web front that can actually pull this information together. So front-end design is certainly not one of my fortes, right? It's that's why, the look of the site is pretty simple. There's nothing special, but at the same time, as you said, the good thing about that is that it's, it means I don't have to load a lot of stuff, right? I think the only one of the things that kind of loads is Bootstrap, which is a kind of CSS thing that I use for the bar. And that's pretty much the only, special thing that I load. Everything else is just plain text. So that's kind of how it started. And I think the initial one, it would just get me the route, and it would get me the origin AS of a specific route. And then I just kept on thinking of adding more and more features. I think specifically recently, what's been interesting is, invalids, as you said, let's say you are your own service provider, right? And you don't know what, maybe are you originating any invalid prefixes at any time? You could just check this to say, hey, this is my AS number. Is this AS number originating any invalids? And you just check that, once an hour, every 10 minutes. It doesn't really matter, right? And if it comes back that you are originating something, you can immediately get alerted, right? Because these are the things that you're just not going to know unless you're looking for it, right? But again, another thing, as you said, is, there are a lot of looking glasses out there, but most of them are exceedingly slow, right? It seems crazy slow, in fact. And not only that, as you said, because it's an interactive form, most of the time, what you click on this, you click on that, and you get some information, and then you click get me some information, you'll notice the URL doesn't change, right? Which, as you said, you can't copy and paste that to someone else, right? It's very it's much more handy to be able to say, look at this URL, this is exactly the information that I'm seeing, right? And this is what's important to us, right? And then I kind of took it a little bit step further, and I thought, a lot of the stuff is sometimes I just want to see via the CLI, right? So I kind of allowed you to do it via curl, and when you do it via curl, it will just give you spit out. It won't do any of the formatting. It will just give you, text. This is what, the information you're requesting from. So that's kind of how it started. It kind of started a little bit organic. There wasn't anything specific. There wasn't a specific problem I was trying to solve. It was more just fun, really, to be honest.
You mentioned the URL thing and passing it along. I also see value in that, because it's like, if you have a particular query you're doing repetitively, maybe it's not a scheduled thing, whatever, so much while you want to check it. I mean, just save the URL. You're going to end up back at the exact same spot. Like, you're checking the same prefix, you're checking the same information, because the URL structure is part of what gets you to that information. You can either pass it along or even just save it for yourself and just say, okay, this is the URL I hit if I want to check, what's happening with Cloudflare and 1.1.1.1 or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So to give you a picture of the actual backend, how it looks. So this is it looks pretty complicated, but I can kind of explain what's going on. You can see the image, right?
Yeah, it's up.
Yep.
Okay. So all these green lines are actually what we spoke about recently. These are all gRPC connections. So it's not a perfect representation of what's going on, but reality is that I have two BGP collectors, and this is where I do all my peering. So this is one server in the US, and there's another server in Europe. And each of these servers peer with, I think it's about 8 peers in total, both V4 and V6. So together, 16 peers over V4 and V6. And both of these peer with, and they peer with each other. So these are also route reflectors to each other, and also to BGP2 and BGP4 down here. So this is just running a standard Bird instance. So Bird is just another, internet. I think BGP Internet Routing Daemon is the original term for it. And the reason I chose this initially was simply because they were this was the particular daemon that was using the least amount of RAM, I should say. So I think when I started it, I only had one server, I only had 1 gig of RAM at the time, and I needed something that could fit into that. I was using Quigo at first, but even that, this was 6-7 years ago. So when the table, the V4 table size was, I don't know, less than 500K, that was taking, more than 1 gig. So I kind of switched to Bird, and I've just kind of stuck with it ever since, just because it works. It's fast, it's quick, it uses, minimal RAM. Anyway, there is a service that I kind of run on front of it called BGP SQL. You'll notice all my names are pretty generic. I can't think of any fancy names. But BGP SQL is kind of the, how do I say it? I don't want to have to keep encoding database logic in every single one of my services. So in order to get around that, I have, this service here, which sits in front of the database, and anything that updates the database or reads from the database just speaks to this, and it's just using standard gRPC, and then BGP SQL kind of turns that request to a SQL query, which either updates the database or gets information from the database. Glass is really so let me go from the top actually. When you first visit bgpstuff.net, you're actually interacting with this service here. It's just called GlassWeb. GlassWeb is simply a very small program that just listens for requests via handlers. And then, for example, you come in and say, what's the route for 1.1.1.1? It will then send that query to the actual Glass daemon. And the Glass daemon will then either interact with the local BGP daemon on the server itself, or it will send a request to BGP SQL, which is usually when people are talking about AS names. One of the major changes that I've done recently, which kind of doesn't show in here, but let me reload this, is that GlassWeb doesn't actually just speak to this single daemon. This actually speaks to both the Glass daemon on the left and the Glass daemon on the right. The reason I did this was mainly because of fault tolerance, right? If I'm upgrading this daemon, or this, it just crashes for some reason, it can still get the same query from Glass here. The user wouldn't even notice the difference. I think the worst that they would notice is maybe a slight increase in latency, because this one is obviously across, in Europe, and this one is in the US. How that kind of works? Do you mind me going into detail about a little bit of how that actually kind of the queries work?
Detail is fantastic. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So, right, let's start here. So this is part of GlassWeb, and this is a handler called Get Invalids. So this is specifically someone's gone to bgpstuff.net and clicked on invalids. When that happens, it pops into this handler here. So this is Go code, but you're not going to need to be an expert on this, but I'll kind of explain what's going on here. So ignore this for a second, because I'll come back here. One of the things about Go that's really nice is something called Go routines. And Go routines allow you to, it's not exactly parallelism, it's called concurrency, right? And what they mean is you can get to a specific part of the code and you can say, hey, I want the code to do more than one thing at the same time, right? In other words, pretty much almost like starting a thread and say, do this, and then do something else immediately. So that's what's happening here. It's making a channel and saying, I'm going to create a channel which is going to store this information that I'm requesting. And then it immediately goes into this, right? And it goes, so when it starts up, it connects to all my Glass servers. In this particular case, I only have 2, but really I could have any amount. It could be 1, it could be 10, doesn't matter. And what it's saying is, for every Glass server that I have, send this request. And it basically says, get me the invalids for this particular ASN. But it's doing it at the same time. So it's basically, because I have 2 particular Glass servers at the moment, it actually sends this to both servers at exactly the same time. It then sits here and it says, okay, if in the same code, it says, if the code comes back okay, in other words, if the request, the Glass server returned data with no error, then basically stick the result back onto the channel. This is the channel over here. So it's basically this bag of stuff we said we were going to do, stick a result into that bag, right? So it's sending it to do to both of these servers at the same time. And then this code immediately jumps down here to say, now listen on that channel. But what the code is now doing, it's actually listening to see if anything puts any information into that bag. As soon as I get information into that bag, it means that one of those Glass servers has responded, in which case I return the information that I received. Just to go back here again, what actually happens again is as it sends it to both servers, it's saying, hey, if you came back saying code okay, that means that there was no error. Immediately put your result into the bag, which again gets read here and gets the information gets returned. If for some reason, there is an error, then it doesn't put anything back into the bag, right? At the same time, we need to make sure that, if for some reason, if both servers were down, you would not want to wait forever. So I do a timeout here. I think it's about 10 seconds where I say, hey, if after 10 seconds, I still haven't received a reply, basically return an error into the bag. In which case here, it will say, hey, if the result doesn't have any errors, return it back. So basically what I'm doing is sending requests to both glass servers at the same time. As soon as one returns, whichever, whether it's the left or the right, and the answer is good, I immediately return that to the user. So the good thing about this is, like I said, if any of these servers goes down, the query still works. Or maybe for whatever reason at that exact time, this glass server is really, really busy and it takes, 3 seconds for it to generate a response. And this one on the left here, it took, half a second to respond. Then I would just use the reply from the left because, it's whatever comes back first without an error, I respond back to the user. But this has other advantages. So I mentioned in our gRPC, call that we had, I said that one of the advantages of gRPC is that because it's, based on a channel, I can say, do some work. But at the same time, I can also say, hey, you know what? I actually don't need your result anymore. This goes back to this code over here. So whatever, like I said in the beginning, this defer cancel. So in Go, you can say a defer. Defer means once you've exiting this function, call this, right? So instead of normally what you'd have to do is, if you, let's say, for example, you're writing some Python code, you can say, hey, if in a function, you can say, do something. If the result is this, return an error. If the result is this, return an error. But if you're going to have multiple return points in your code, the issue is like, let's say you need to, close a database connection or do some kind of cleanup. You have to remember to do that cleanup at every single point where the code can return. With Go, it actually allows you to essentially say defer. Defer means that whenever this returns, it calls the defer. So because I'm putting it right at the top here, it means whenever I return. So if it returns here, if it returns here, it will always then basically call that code called cancel. What cancel does is it sends across the channel to both of these servers to say, hey, I already have my answer. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to give me information back, right? So let me go back to the code. This is on the glass server itself. The advantage of doing it this way is that you can actually tell these glass servers that to stop doing processor intensive tasks when you don't need that information anymore. So let's have a look at that same request on the actual glass server. So request comes in. The very first thing that the glass server will do is it will check its local cache. So every query I have has a cache. Some of them for a few seconds, some of them for like a few hours. For example, AS names, I think I see say for 6 hours because that's not something that changes all the time. But basically, the query comes in to the glass server. It will check the local cache. If there's something in the cache and the cache is valid, it just returns the cache entry immediately and just exits out the function. If not, it will then go and actually request the invalids from the local router. In this particular case, it will speak directly to Bird and say, get me the invalids for this particular AS number. It then compiles it into a proto answer, gRPC answer, right? It updates the local cache, and then it will return it back. However, one thing I quickly skipped over was this. And this is saying that, hey, if at this point, if I get to the code at this point and the context is canceled, then actually stop doing the rest of the process and just return null. So what I'm saying here basically is because specifically invalids is quite a computationally heavy request. I'm basically saying if GlassWeb requests invalids from both glass servers, and let's say the one on the left returns first, GlassWeb will just return that answer. But at the same time, what it's actually telling this one on the right is, hey, you go in and update your cache, so the next request will be a little bit quicker. But when you get here, you don't actually have to send me the answer because I already have the answer. That request is already over, right? So it means that this particular server on the right doesn't actually have to compile any of this stuff into a proto answer and send it back over the wire. It just kind of stops. It just returns null and it just says stop processing. And this is pretty much on every single handler. It works very similar to this. Let me go back to my screen there. So I hope that was a little bit, I hope that was understandable, but I know kind of was bouncing a little bit all over the place there.
I'm sitting here on
was
mute
good.
talking to you. Yeah.
I was going to say, the Go code is like, I'm here, and the Go code is there. I'm still trying to break out of the Python box.
Yeah, I mean, Python is great. I mean, that's kind of like it certainly wasn't the first language I started, but it was the first language that I was productive in, right? But I mean, I use Go at work, so it's kind of like it's what I'm the most fluent in, you could say, and just working in it, for so long, it's just become like, I do Python when I need to, but if I'm not forced to, everything's pretty much in Go these days. And I think so. Some of the reason is, as you can see, is that doing things like concurrency, Go makes it extremely easy to do that. When Python, it's really not so easy to do that.
Right. I was going to say before BGP Stream, you mentioned that you have your 2 Twitter bots. Was that really sort of what started this project? Was sort of pulling in BGP feeds, measuring them, and then just tweeting out every once in a while. And then from that, you're like, man, this is a lot of data. I can use it. I can use it better.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, although to be honest, like there was quite a big gap between when I started that and when I started, looking at this. I think I started looking at BGP stuff maybe the beginning of last year. I can't remember. It was sometime, I know it was in the winter. You're inside and you're like, I need to find something to do, right? So
no.
Why not just do something like this, right?
Most of us don't go like, it's winter. Maybe I should write a BGP Looking Glass. Most people aren't doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're like Jordan, you're like looking at telescope catalogs.
There's truth in that. So I have a question for you, Darren.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty robust infrastructure for something that's a side project, right? Like something that's just kind of for fun. Did it start there, or has it kind of grown over time?
It's definitely grown over time. I started off with way back in the past when I just do my Twitter bots. It started off with a single server, or should I say VM, right, and a single peer, and that's all I had. And then slowly but surely, I just continued to add peers, and then you start running out of memory, and then you're like, okay, I need something bigger, and then you're like, well, that server went down for a week because something happened, so now I need to get a second server, and now I need to contact all my peers, and I need to tell them to please peer with this other address as well. Kindly, please do that. So yeah, it's definitely grown over time. The resilience I added recently in kind of the back end, that was kind of out of frustration on my own part, where I was noticing now and then there were particular queries that would break things. If it was possible to send a dodgy request, which would just crash the server, right? But in general, that the server would restart. But that was kind of annoying, because it would there was those few minutes of interim time when it was just kind of either giving bad data, or it would just give somebody, somebody could even go and click a request and it might show just BGP stuff, maybe the bar, and then it would just be completely blank. So this kind of stuff, I was like, this just looks bad, right? Especially if you're going to be querying it via automation, it either needs to be good or bad, right? And the automation needs to be able to know when it's bad, right? Because I was still even responding with like HTTP 200, even if the query was bad, right? Which is just not what you do with automation, right? Automation, you're kind of looking at what's the HTTP response code. And if it's is it a bad request? Is it a client bad request? Is it a server bad request? Is it, is it something else? So on that rewrite, I was thinking, not just do I want to make that better, but I have 2 servers. Why am I only querying one of them, right? There are times, like I say, when I am upgrading the daemons, and in those few minutes, if someone's doing queries, it's just going to fall on deaf ears, basically. So, I was also, at the time, I've been working extensively with gRPC, but I was kind of wondering, like, how can I make, this whole context cancel and, cancellation and, channels something that I could actually, learn how to do. So that's kind of like a little bit, a little bit of a learning experience, like how can I make this kind of resilient where it's just kind of occurring
it's
2 or 3 or 4 backends at the center. Exactly. Pretty much.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
So that's kind of like, where the, most of the recent improvements came from.
That's cool.
I got 2 questions if I can throw them in here, small ones. The code that you showed us, is this a public code repository? Do you have it open to the public, GitLab or GitHub, or is it private?
So most of the back-end stuff is actually open. So if you go on my GitHub repo, most of it is under BGP infrastructure. And you can see it all there. So that's like the Glass server, the BGP SQL server, the AS name, and so on. The BGP stuff front end is on a private repo for now, but that's only because I was doing a lot of development work and I was kind of testing handlers before I wanted people to start hitting those handlers. But actually, I haven't added a new handler for a while, so I might just make that open as well. And I should probably do that soon because there's nothing hidden there, right? It is what it is, right? So I can certainly do that, yeah.
And my second question is, you have peering in the US and peering in Europe. How do we know which results we're getting? And what I mean is like when I want an AS path, right, it might be different in the US versus the European side. So how do I know which result do I know where it's coming from?
So right now, you don't. I was thinking about ways to show that without being messy, right? And I was kind of thinking about something that like Microsoft used to do, because apparently Microsoft, when they, people used to share screenshots of, screens that maybe games that they weren't supposed to be playing that they got off Xbox Live off the developer network or something. And apparently what Microsoft had been doing was they had been encoding certain information in the bottom right of the screen in these like water drop. It looks like it's just a water drop image, but apparently they had been coding information in there so they could figure out who was sharing that information. So I was kind of thinking of something like that, right? It's something silly, right? Like even the full stop at the end of, of the footer, I was thinking, if I got it from the second server, maybe I should put 2 dots there. And if it was from the first server, it would be only 1 dot there. But that was just for my information. So I kind of knew what was going on, right?
That's some sneaky stuff, Darren. That's sneaky.
But I haven't actually done that. In general, what I can kind of figure it out now just from the fact that if you're in the US and you do a query and you see that in general, the query took longer than 100 milliseconds, it's probably from Europe. If it's less than 100 milliseconds, it's probably from local. So that's why if you go to any query, at least on the website, it will tell you like this query took X amount of milliseconds, right? But that's not always the case, right? Because like I said, certain handlers can be pretty computation expensive. And if something's not in the cache, it then needs to check the thing. And that can sometimes, for example, getting all the invalids can take about 1.2 seconds or 2 seconds, right? Still faster than other looking glasses, of course. But I think
that's not or anything.
Of course, one of the things that BGP stuff is not going to get some people, right, and which is kind of one of the primary uses of a looking glass is really not just do I want a generic view of what's going on, because as you said, what you're seeing when you're recurring me is my view, right? Now, I may be connected to APS, so it's kind of like, and I usually, for example, if you do a show, what's the origin for this prefix? What I'm doing is I'm taking the current best path and getting the information from that, right? Because I may have 8 paths, right? Now, of course, one thing that I'm not doing is, which you get from external ones is you may specifically want to know what AT&T sees, right? Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to give you that. You're going to have to query AT&T. But I think what I would like to see, what would be nice really is, a lot of these carriers that just update their looking glasses to be able to do something like this, right? As far as I can see, a lot of the code that these carriers are using seems to be the same code that has been around for 15 years. And it's some Perl script or something that I've seen and they just slightly tweak it to change something. When it's just, this proves that it's really not that difficult to do, right? If they could, change this code to just suit on them, right? And you can have different, variables. For as an example, instead of just getting what's the route for this, you could say, what is the route for this from this particular router, right? Because that's what a lot of looking glasses do, right? They can say, hey, I want to see what the route looks from this particular data center, or I want to see what it looks from that particular data center. That wouldn't be too difficult to add, right? This is the shame that, most don't, right? As you said, it's either logging in by a telnet to some old 7200 that happens to be paired with their border router somewhere, or it's some kind of website extremely slow and, not even given a URL that you can copy and paste, right? You have to fill in a form almost, right? And then at the end, you have to say, I'm not using this for abuse or whatever. And it takes you minutes to get information, which is not great.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's one of the reasons why I love the site so much, because as you mentioned, some of the looking glasses out there have been the same for 15 years, and in fact, some of them still look like they did 15 years ago, like no updates to the site or anything. And, and it's very cool to be using a product, which is, I don't know, what do I call BGP stuff? A product or a service or a project, but using a project, that can constantly change and enhance features quickly. It's one of the reasons why I prefer, and I'm so happy that my company, almost always prefers open source first for anything. And it's because the turnaround time on fixes and features is far greater than anything we can get out of commercial products and commercial vendors.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things that we see with your site. I mean, I've used your site, 6 months or a year or something maybe. And I've seen a ton of enhancements. I mean, you've added a ton of new features along the menu bar already. And in fact, I had come to you with a question in the Network Collective Slack and asked if I was able to pull this kind of information out. And at the time, there really wasn't a way to do that. And I think within a day or two, you were like, hey, Tony, can you try that again? I think it might work now. So, I mean, it was pretty easy to be able to put in sort of a feature request and to see that realized, whereas I would like to see those other BGP looking glasses take in a feature request and in a few days' time turn around something that's usable. It's just it's
not just that. It's kind of like automation is taking over the networking field, right? Whether people like it or not, right? And the fact is, if you have some kind of software which is changing attributes for whatever reason, right? You want to be able to programmatically see those changes, right? You want to be able to programmatically say, not just what am I advertising to the world, but what are other people seeing, right? Just because you may be advertising something, what happens if you accidentally put no export or some other thing, right? You're not going to see that unless you're specifically looking for that.
I love how you just phrased that. That is one of the things always, like when I'm having a BGP discussion with other colleagues, I'm like, just because you advertised it doesn't mean they received it. Okay?
Yeah.
Just because you advertised it this way doesn't mean they see it that way. Yeah.
Absolutely. So being able to, whoever you are, right? Let's say you paired with, 50 peers and you have 2 tier 1, it would be good for you to be able to programmatically ask those providers, not even that quickly, once every 30 minutes, I'm advertising 14 IPv4 and 16, 6 IPv6 ranges. How many do you see coming from me, right? And if for whatever reason, somebody's doing some maintenance and all of a sudden from, half of those peers, you see less prefixes or maybe more prefixes. Somebody's accidentally deaggregated something.
That's worse. Yes.
Yes.
That's way worse.
Alert me, right?
Yeah.
Right now, what I see a lot of the time is, especially when those kind of things happen, is people know about these things from other people telling them, hey, why are you suddenly announcing a bunch of invalids, or, it kind of blows up on Twitter and, you say, hey, my company seems to be doing something a little bit dodgy here, right? It would be good for you to figure that out before it happens, right? And being able to programmatically peek into other people's networks to see what what they see of you is extremely useful. And I see very much lacking.
Nice. There's been some chat going on. It looks like you're going to be receiving some messages from South America. They really want you to peer down there and kind of give some visibility down into South America. So be on the lookout for that. I think that's good. Okay. Donald Sharp is in, and he's a big fan of the fact that you're using Bird over free range routing. So we'll just drop this in here. That's his high level comments about what he brings to the table. Although I want to know what free range routing, or whatever all the other R's are, because there's a few too many there. So I'm not sure what FUR is. Maybe we should start calling it FUR. But he did come back around and provide some levity, or at least some maturity eventually. Let's see. I don't know that I've ever heard him say that, so that's kind of cool.
So I can let me comment just on that. So I would actually like to. I've kind of tested out FRR. I think one of the things that I need to think about is, for all my handlers, I need to think, what is the information I'm trying to get in this particular handler? Now, the one problem with Bird is that, unfortunately, like most vendors, is that they design outputs for humans, not programs. So they, you need to kind of, most of the time, scrape that information, which is terrible, right? Because they might have a bump from Bird 207 to 208, and it could change completely an output, and you may be grabbing the third field, which is now complete garbage, right? What it used to be before. Ideally, if things gave structured output, it would be much better. Now, I know FRR does give structured output, but I think it's missing a few things that I'm kind of needing. But I think the biggest problem I have with FRR at the moment is the memory requirement is quite a bit higher than Bird. That's the only concern I have, right? If it's not the end of the world, but it would be nice if it was a little bit more compact, like Bird is. But I must admit, actually, on the Bird mailing list, they are saying that they are trying to also add structured output to some of their commands. They've also much improved their multiprocessor capabilities, at least from 207 to 208. I'm still on 207. And they have said that this does come with a bump in memory. I don't know how much yet. I haven't upgraded yet. So we'll have to see. But I'm pretty open to, any daemon that can run, right?
Yeah, I know. I've seen you guys chatting about it. He's giving you a hard time about it before. But I thought I would just call it out, since there was yeah. And there you go. Right there. He says, send me what output you need. So this is one of the awesome things, like, in this just broader network community, but also Network Collective, right? Like, here you are writing a good project, and Donald Sharp's there, and he's like, hey, yeah, I'll help you out if I can. So Donald, you just have to reduce the memory footprint by about 50%. And make it, I don't know, about 150% more, more efficient, and that's all you need to do. Should be pretty easy, right? You'll have it out next week. And this was interesting from Laz. The kind of project it would be great to hook into an internal monitoring solution, and so, like, I wonder, like, obviously you've built this to be robust so people can hit it, but obviously he mentions that we as Network Collective could give it the hug of death. And I'm sure that, if you get enough people going after it, you're not building like super robust web scale front end for this thing. So I don't necessarily want to encourage that. But at the same time, like, I think that, it's one of those great resources. So, like, what is your capacity to handle? Like, we've mentioned it would be cool to kind of programmatically go after this thing and kind of pull down content all the time. Are you set up to have that happen? Like if all of a sudden like a couple thousand entities did that, there was no problem that they were pulling this. Like you're not worried about the impacts on that on your machines. I did hear you say back when we were chatting it with the gRPC conversation we had that at some point this was running on like a Raspberry Pi. So I do know that like it's rather memory efficient from what you've said. But I just I'm kind of curious. Like are you cool with people hitting it and hammering it and do what needs to be done or?
Oh yeah, I mean you can hit it as hard as you want. I think the only thing that I kind of say is, and it's kind of if you go to dev.bgpstuff.net, you'll kind of see what I say there, and that is you can make thousands of lines of query. Just don't make 1,000 queries per second, right? That would be bad, and that and it depends also on the query. For example, in the Python client, I kind of do a little bit of optimization, and that is some people would like to say, hey, what are all the ASNs that are currently originating invalids? Now, there's two ways you can get that information. You could either iterate over every single ASN that exists and say, give me the invalids of this one. Now give me the invalids of the next one. But that would be bad because there's like, especially with 32-bit ASNs, there's hundreds of, thousands of ASNs. So what I do with, there's certain optimizations where for that, there is a command that says, get all the invalids, right? And that will just give you a big chunk of data. And then locally, you can iterate over that chunk of data. And that's not reaching out to the server now because it's kind of giving you all the invalids that currently exist in the table. And then you can just iterate as much as you want over that chunk of data and, do whatever you want with it. So that kind of thing, is kind of built into the Python client and will be in the Go client as well. But as for like, when I test, I hammer the thing with like tens of thousands of queries, in a few seconds, and it just handles it with ease. So, I think the one thing I would like to do, as I said, is that Glass web binary is kind of the front end. That doesn't actually have any state in it whatsoever. It requests all the information from the Glass at the back end, meaning that I could spin up more and more Glass web servers, wherever I wanted. The problem I have right now is that doing kind of global load balancing via DNS is one of those things you just can't seem to get for free from even places like Cloudflare or something, right? They'll be like, yeah, we can, front your website and you do that, but you want, any cost kind of load balancing, that's going to cost you. So if it wasn't for that, and if all there was, a provider who did provide it, I would certainly be using them. Then I could spin up a bunch of, micro instances of GlassWeb all over the world, and then people could hammer it as much as they wanted to, right? But it's just doing the resolution from BGP stuff to a local IP address, any cost. That seems to be a service that is not particularly cheap. At least I haven't found one yet. And if I can find one, then I'll certainly be using it.
You mean people who provide services to companies who do things at a global scale want to make money doing that? Yeah. I mean, it's really shocking. they look specifically for the features that are needed to make those global scale operations work, and then they charge for those. Yeah, that's not surprising at all. But who knows? Maybe there's somebody listening in tonight who runs one of those who says, "Hey, this is worth kind of just dropping it in because it's not gonna hurt us." So if you happen to run Cloudflare or any other service and you wouldn't mind fronting this, let us know. We'll get you in touch and make it happen. But no, that's completely understandable. I was just kind of curious because we know we're pitching an idea to a bunch of engineers who will do it. Like, so, there's, in fact, 2 messages ago from Preston is challenge accepted, right? Like, that's exactly what I expected the consequence of saying, hey, can you hit this API, hard, like someone's going to try it. So please don't break bgpstuff.net intentionally, but use it. Anyway.
Yeah, if you do, break the European one. I don't use that one. So go after that one.
Tony, you were asking how you knew where your routes are from. I'm just surprised that you haven't memorized the European ASNs yet. So when they start showing up in the AS paths, you just go, oh yeah, that's Europe.
So I just kind of wanted to actually dovetail into what Darren was sort of explaining before the Anycast statement. But he was saying when you use the Python client, for example, when you want to get all the invalids, he just sends you sort of a blob, right? Like, here's all the information, instead of sort of serializing it one after another or having to iterate through that was one of the things that I asked Darren about. I had a theory, I had a sort of a hypothesis, and I was going through BGP stuff and I couldn't find the answer there. So I actually went to a couple of traditional looking glasses, AT&T, Hurricane Electric, and some others. And I just couldn't find a way to do this. And what I wanted to find was, every ASN has an ASN name. Let's take, for example, Google, right? Google has a bunch of ASNs. They're all called Google. So how do I just show me all the ASN numbers with the ASN name Google, right? When most of the time you normally do that operation in reverse. You say, here's the ASN number I want to see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here is the name. Well, in this case, I wanted to sort of flip the idea, right? I wanted to search for a name. So in order to do that, I needed to be able to sort of iterate through all of the ASN. And that just wasn't feasible, right? That would have been something that would have hammered his site for no reason. It would have taken too long, and I would have definitely gotten plenty of errors because my code is sloppy. But that was sort of the request that I gave him was, how do I just say, show me all the ASNs that have this name? So then I can, start to do, like you were saying, Jordan, haven't I memorized them? But then I can start to group things and say, like, oh, when I see these ASNs, in my NetFlow data, I know they belong to Google. I can start tagging them in different applications and things for visibility and grouping. It just made sense. So, so that's what I had asked him for, and it was just sort of a brilliant way to do it, and something that, again, I can't get that data from any other looking glass. If someone can prove me wrong, send me an email, tony@networkcollective.com. Prove me wrong. But Darren took care of it in about 2 or 3 days.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like, the initial features that I added were things that were interest of me, right? And then I was kind of asking, like, if anyone has like an interesting idea that, is programmable, right? Not everything, either something is either too expensive resource-wise, or it's just, either maybe just really difficult to implement. But, any other feature, just let me know. I'm happy to add. It's, it's fun, right? Yeah.
I want every ASN that only has odd numbers in it. Can you give me something where you can just click and get that? Or do I have to write that code?
Yeah, that would be good to go.
If it has any even number in it, it's just out. No. That's great. So, so you said, if there's any features out there that people are interested, let you know. Do you have anything that you're working on, things that are kind of on the horizon, or is it just kind of steady state for now and until there's some sort of new need?
Right now it's steady state. I think the last feature I added was getting AS names in bulk, which is what Tony was asking for. But before that, it was really, the big one was really the invalids, right? So I had, previously I was you could check if a particular prefix was signed. But now I would, you can just say, hey, give me all the invalids for this ASN, if any, or just give me all the invalids that are currently in the table. The one problem with that is that if all of my upstream providers eventually drop invalids, that handle is going to break. But that's right. There's nothing I can do about that. And I believe half of them are already doing that, which is good for them, right? I mean, it's so great for me, right? Because I kind of need to see those, those dirty prefixes.
Listen, if breaking this function on BGP stuff.net means that the internet is in a safer, more resilient place, I think we all can live with that, right? Like if RPKI is actually in place and functional and we're dropping invalids, that's I'm okay with that. But apparently there will always be places that you can peer to that are not going to follow along, right? Like we're never going to get 100% participation. And so the challenge is the propagation of that. And that's the whole idea. Parallel like the pandemic, right? Like the more people that get the vaccine, the harder it is for the virus to spread. The more people that do our PKI, the harder it is for invalids to make it across the net because they're going to get killed somewhere along the path. And so,
absolutely. I mean, if we get to the point where there just aren't any invalids, or they're getting dropped by the first AS in the path, then it's an unneeded handler at that point, right? It just, at that point, there shouldn't be any invalids, right?
Yeah.
At least in 90% of the internet, right?
That's right. And then we can call BGP secure and we can all quit. I'm kidding. It's not. The wild there. It's like, wait a minute. No. We can't say that. That's cool. So this is a really cool project, man. I do appreciate you coming on and talking about it. So BGP stuff.net, where else can people find you? We have your Twitter handle up there, like at Mellowdrifter. Is there other places online where you're at that is like you're putting content out, or you have to do more. I'm not trying to put pressure on you.
Yeah, I occasionally blog at melody.dev. Although it's not super busy because, I've been spending so much time specifically on this, and I keep thinking about I should blog about some of the things that I do onto that particular site. So I haven't updated it in a while, but yes, melody.dev, my Twitter at Mellowdrifter, and BGP stuff.net itself.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Tony, you have anything else you want to ask Darren?
But I'll just throw out there that I know Darren was also recently on the Modem podcast with Nick and Chris. So check out that interview. Yeah, he did a great job there, and it was just sort of another perspective on BGP stuff. So definitely give that a listen if you want to know more.
Very cool.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, Darren, man, thanks so much for coming on today. I'm really glad you got the stuff sorted out with your house last week, and glad we could make this happen and connect. Preston wants to know your favorite color. Darren, what's your favorite color?
Wow.
On the spot. I know. We just talked about BGP, and all kinds of cool stuff around programmatically accessing the BGP table, but is BGP color?
Yeah, maybe just someone. I don't know. Blue, green, those are my favorite colors. Really.
Purple? Sorry.
Purple's nice as well.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying BGP. We have to finish that out. You just say blue green. You gotta go to the next one. Anyway, Darren.
Whoa, dude, that was so meta. What just happened? Looking purple. I caught that late. Oh no.
All right. On that note, Darren, man, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the cool work that you're doing. Also, thanks for coming on doing the gRPC podcast with us. That was good. And then we have some more gRPC related content that should be coming out in the next weeks and months ahead. We're kind of doing a recurring thing there, so that's cool. We touched the foundation, but hoping to explore it a bit more. And so hopefully we can have you back again soon. I'm sure there's lots more we can talk with you about. So Darren, thanks again, and we'll see you soon, man.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
All right. Good deal. Oh,
dude, that was awesome.
It was very cool.
Awesome. I mean, when do we get to talk about diving into code and BGP at the same time?
These are times that I feel really disappointed that I've taken the path that I have, and I'm kind of in this reseller consulting space, because anytime we talk about automation or using automation for good, I just don't have the available network. I don't own a network. There's no network that's mine. I can recommend it and we can talk about it in theory, but I can't do it. And the only time to do it is if I do a hobby. And like I said, I don't need hobbies. I've got plenty of those already, and they're already eating up all of my time. And so,
but I like what you said there, doing automation for good. Put that on a sticker.
There you go.
Network Collective, automation for good.
But no, I mean, I think that, it's an exciting time to be in networking, especially if you are in the operations or even in the architecture side, inside of an enterprise network, inside of a service provider network, any place where, you kind of have ownership of the gear and the architecture. For me, all I do is talk on whiteboards, so I don't get to do that. Automation. I get it. So I kind of miss out on stuff like this, because it's man, this is a really cool project, man. I would, if I had this available to me, 10 years ago, I would have used the heck out of it, but here we are. right?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way sometimes. When I get to dive and sit side by side with them doing a project, you get that feeling. I like how you put it, that ownership feeling. You get to be part of it. You get to sit and feel their operations when things are good and when things are bad, Yep. And for me, I get to enjoy all of those emotions and then walk away at the end of the project and go help somebody else. You know what I mean? I very much, we don't just do the, selling or anything like that. We do a lot of right seat, left seat. Let's sit in there for 3 months, 6 months. Let's do this project together until it's done. And but yeah, I love it. That's where I get my operational stories, because I don't do operations, right? I don't sit in a knock all day or a SOC. I have to go in, help people, and then jump out. And I mean, it's good for me, but yeah.
One of the huge benefits of what I do, right, is I get to see a lot. So I get to talk to a lot of customers.
Yeah.
I get to see what other people are doing. I kind of get to bring all that back and kind of provide a bigger picture, which I think helps here with Network Collective. It helps obviously when I'm talking to other customers to understand like what's actually happening, what reality is. But there's something about that gritty, like hands on keyboard, like let's just get it done, right? And I mean, I did that for so much of my career. I do miss it a bit, for sure. So yeah, very cool, man. That was.
I wanted to share something with the Network Collective viewers out there. This was a link that I dropped. If you can pull up my screen, that'd be great. This is a link that I dropped over in Network Collective Slack, and I even threw it out there on Twitter the other day. But I just wanted another opportunity just to showcase this. This is a textbook, an online textbook, free for everyone, from Peter Dordal at Loyola University Chicago. This is a intro to computer networks, but I'm going to tell you something. This is far beyond intro. This is your intro, but this is also the last book you need. This is the first and the last. It's like TCP/IP Volume 1 and 2. There is a lot to go over here, and this is not sort of Cisco focused. It is very much down to the fundamentals of networking. So I'm going to drop this link in the chat. I recommend everyone just go ahead and bookmark that link and just go through the table of contents. That's the link that I share. And if there's any topic that looks interesting to you, just click on it. And if you don't learn anything, send me an email. I mean, I can just go through here. I mean, let's just take a look. The dynamics of TCP, TCP Reno fairness and synchronized losses. Everyone an expert on that already? Good. You can skip that chapter.
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, there's just so much. TCP Reno loss rate versus the change client window, the change in window, TCP friendliness. I mean, this is just like we haven't even left one chapter yet. It's just one chapter. It just goes on and on. Newer TCP implementations. These are a lot of the TCP congestion algorithms and how they work. I mean, of course, we're down at chapter 22. It starts off at the very beginner intro stuff, but when you start to dive into it, there's really a lot here, and I have found this absolutely fascinating. This one, TCP Reno and congestion management. This was awesome. This whole TCP issues and alternatives. I know I'm saying TCP a lot, and we've already talked about Chris Greer, but I'm telling you, gone through the entire Cisco sort of learning program, all the way from CCNA, all the way to getting my CCIE, they didn't cover this stuff.
Right.
Like this was missed. And this isn't for everybody, right? There's a niche audience that is fascinated by this kind of stuff, but it's in to why things work. I find that absolutely fascinating. And here's a reference that sort of describes it at a college level. It introduces the topic. It's very focused. It's written from beginning to end the way a textbook would. So I just wanted to share that and make sure everybody has an opportunity to have that, and share it with your coworkers and share it with your friends. It's free. It's open for everyone. And of course, you could take this guy's class online, I'm sure, if you wanted to get the lecture material as well.
That's cool. I see this happen all the time. With really, really smart people who understand networking when they start writing down This happened when I was working, had a small part in one of Russ White's books, The Computer Networking Problems and Solutions. I helped edit that from a technical perspective, which is ridiculous. Just to throw it out there that, that I would be editing Russ White's book. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. And we were talking about it through the whole process, and he kept saying, these are the basics. And I'm like, no, Russ, you don't understand. These are not basics at all. Like you're completely off base on this. These are not the basics. These are the fundamentals. So this is not an introduction. These are the fundamentals of computer networks. This is, and this is one of my, I posit this, I guess I think about it every once in a while, but like we learn in networking backwards. We learn, we
put yourself on the screen.
Oh, I'm sitting here talking. I can see myself on the other screen, the one that's not,
on the monitor.
Yeah, on the monitor one. Yeah. So we learn in networking backwards. We start with the how, and when we consider learning the why and those fundamental concepts, expertise. If we really were to follow it like the logical way, we would learn the fundamentals and then the application, not the other way around. And so like, when you think about CCNA, what is CCNA about? Well, it's like teaching you about subnetting, but then it's also teaching you about, like basic administration, like how you actually do stuff, where CCNA should be this. CCNA should be like, how does TCP work? How does it actually work? So that when you go to the actual application, you already understand it. Now it's just a translation into a system. But that's obviously very hard to do, because how long would we spend learning those fundamentals and being completely non-productive?
Yeah, exactly.
Until we were ready to start putting hands on. Once we had expertise of the fundamentals, like you would be 15 years in your career before you could touch a switch, right? Like, it take a long time.
And at that point, you would run into that problem, right? Where you're a college graduate, a master's or a PhD with zero experience.
Right.
Right. So like how much is that worth? How much is your expertise really worth when you have no experience? I actually do think it's the right path. Going through CCNA, CCNP, CCIE, and you don't have to learn this stuff. Like I said, it's not for everybody, and you can go your entire career without learning TCP congestion. But for me, I had a very embarrassing situation, which is the reason that drives me. I get driven by embarrassment.
Of course.
For fear of embarrassment.
For fear of not knowing.
I had an embarrassing I had a very embarrassing situation. I was the CCIE and I was the expert administration on this network. And someone came to me with a problem in a PCAP. And they were like, something's going on with the network. It's always slow. I captured it. Finally, it took me a month, and I finally captured when it's slow. Here, take a look. And I was like,
don't know what to
looks
say.
good to me. But I was the last ditch effort, and I couldn't even skim the surface. I didn't know what I was looking at, which that drove curiosity in PCAP. And of course, when I bumped into Chris Greer, I was just like, it was a whole new, world that I didn't realize. And then I found a resource like this, which is a really well-written textbook. There's tons of diagrams in there. It's really good. It's free online. Check it out. And it's sort of giving me just another perspective, another presentation of the material. And I really enjoyed it. So this stuff wouldn't make sense to me if I didn't already know how the networks worked. If I didn't already know what the expected client traffic and experience was, this wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I actually think that I land somewhere in the middle. I see networking much like many other trades. And some people may be offended by that, but I really do think it's more of a trade than it is like some higher level academic pursuit. I see it just like, if you're going to become an electrician, like there's a whole trade process, like, that you go through and you start, and you're supposed to touch things. You're supposed to do work. You're doing work, but you're not doing work on the critical stuff. And then as you go along your journey, you become journeyman. Then eventually you become master. And once you become master, like you're the one who is teaching other people how to do it, but then also you're the one responsible for the stuff that's dangerous, the stuff that can affect things. If we treated our work like a trade, I think it would be better. What we do is we don't give people the master. we put them into a situation where we ask them to do work, but they don't really fully understand everything that's there. And I see this time and time and time again, that like the most senior person on the team is really a journeyman. There's not someone who's there who really understands to the level that needs to be done, that can guide people who don't yet, to make sure that they don't step into things that they're not supposed to, teach them the things that they know so that they can get to that process. Only the people who really pursue it for themselves, or who are lucky enough to fall into a place that happens to have somebody like that, are the people who get to progress to that level. Like, you know what I'm saying? You either have to be self-motivated to find that spot, or you have to be lucky to find that spot, but most places don't have that. And because of that, we don't really have a way to train younger, less experienced people in coming up through the ranks to figure out how to do this. And so we ask people without the experience to do things that are way above their capacity and skill level, that carry a high level of risk because of the fact that they don't understand what they're doing. I'm thinking things like VTP. Oh, just add a VLAN. Just add the switch. It's not that hard, right? Like, but all of a sudden there's something there that could really trip things up. What about spanning tree? What about things like routing protocols? What about things like, as you get more and more involved, there's bigger and bigger implications. And if you haven't had someone to help guide you through those things, you're guessing until you get it wrong. And then you're learning the lessons the hard way, hopefully. And so I think that there's a problem there. Yeah, I think that there's just a bit of a inefficiency in the way that we go about getting skills to people who are starting out in this industry. Like, you to really do work here, you have to be a master, and there's no masters around. So you just have to fake it until you figure it out, which is not a good strategy.
Yeah, it's not. And, but it's not a good strategy. Okay. Let's say that, but it is a strategy. It works for some. It doesn't work for all.
That's right.
And I would say, people have asked me before, how did I get to where I am, or how do I do the work that I do? And I just thank God. And I tell people, this is always my response. I was afforded the opportunity to fail often. That's basically what it works out to be. I was given the ability, the opportunity and the trust to fail often. And I just made a promise to myself that I wouldn't, trip over the same stick twice. And that was it. So every failure is a learning experience, and you grow and you grow. And you got a whole bag of like lessons learned. And then someone comes up to you and is like, hey, I'm going to install a new switch. You're like, you start picking out all your lessons. Here's the VTP one. Here's the STP one. You'll need to know this. Here's all the things that have tripped me up. And that's just what it boils down to. It's not for everybody, but it's for some people.
You see God.
That? Who let him in the chat?
I know, again. and then it follows through. If you're not building fast reroute from the bedroom to the kitchen via the garage, what are you even doing?
It's funny because I absolutely look up to and respect Kevin Myers, because he does some amazing work and he knows so much about the field that he works in. And I know because I have some side conversations with him. He's kind of coaching me along on this project that I have. And I was just thinking, I was doing some actual network design on this project that I have questions to him about. And I was just thinking, like, if Kevin could see this, he would be doing MPLS, I'm sure. Like, not necessary, but he's definitely going to turn it on.
So it's really funny you say that.
What other features would he be turning on in my network that we would never need?
So it's funny you say that, because Chris is in here. Kevin's like a drug dealer, but with network protocols. And the very next one is, hey kid, you want some MPLS?
Yep.
And then
that's perfect.
First tech is free. I love it.
All right.
This is a good statement too, right here, from Thomas. Just is the most dangerous word in IT. Just add a switch. Just do this. It's more complicated than that. It's never just. In fact, if you're saying just, I guarantee you do not have an adequate understanding of what it is that you're doing, because even the simple stuff for me now, simple, quote unquote, is not just go do it. I want to make sure I'm looking at as many angles as possible to make sure I'm not tripping over something that's there. There's no just add a switch. In fact, I think the further along I get to my career, the more I recognize how much damage you can do by just doing something. Yeah, I love it. That's a great way to look at it, Thomas. All right, man. I think it's time. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is Naked Hardware on March 24th, 2021. So this is the part of the show where I show you a piece of networking hardware without its chassis, with its case open. We take a raw picture of the circuitry inside. We post that picture on Network Collective Twitter, and we try to get everyone to try and answer, what is that piece of hardware? What is it without its clothes on? We call that Naked Hardware. So first I want to review the post that we did last week. So this was the Naked Hardware that was posted last week, and we had a couple of responses on it. So thank you for everybody who played along and responded. Really appreciate it. And let's go ahead and review the guesses before we review the answers. So this was the image that we had last week. Now, I was really excited to share this one because I was sure this was going to be one that was going to stump some folks. And the reason I thought it was going to stump folks, because typically when we do these pieces of hardware are pulled from people's, old CCNA kits or old pieces of hardware that they were cleaning out an office, or cleaning out a rack in a data center, and they got some old gear. This one, on the flip side, is a very new piece of gear. In fact, this is a very pristine piece of gear. I think this piece of gear actually has never even had a frame pushed through it. It might already has its case off. So let's sort of break down what the guesses were and then take a look at what the answers are. I put them in winners, even though they were guesses. So we'll just go sort of in order. Our first guess was made here by our very own Preston Roberts from the Network Collective Slack. Preston guessed an SN2010 from Mellanox. That's my guess. Now, Preston didn't exactly reply to the tweet per the instructions, and he also failed to include the hashtag naked hardware per the instructions. But I will accept his guess because why not? Because, this is naked hardware. We're having a good time.
What are you doing? This is all about promotion of our stuff. It's not about the guesses. It's about people sharing our stuff, man. You can't give them credit. You have to do it the right way.
Let's talk about this.
I'm kidding.
The SN2010 from Mellanox is a good guess. Let's talk about the next guess, please. We'll zoom this in. Now, this member, Laz from Network Collective Community, he also guessed a Mellanox SN2010. However, even though Laz per timestamp was a later guess, he did answer in a reply, but he also forgot the hashtag naked hardware.
We had two guesses and they both didn't get the MO correct. That's something. I mean, are we not communicating it well?
Listen,
this seems like an internal failure.
The Network Collective community is an awesome group. I plug them all the time. I plug the Slack. And here's an example in public on how they can't even follow simple directions.
Wow. Wow.
All right, let's talk about the answers. Bring me back up.
I got you.
All right, so let's talk about the answers. SN 2010 survey says, I don't know, am I allowed to say that? Is that copywritten?
No, I think it's all right. We had our first copyright claims. Remember when I played that movie that was somebody else's movie, and then I was worried about getting a copyright claim? Yeah, we got dinged for that one.
Did it get pulled?
Yeah.
No, for real?
It didn't get pulled.
That should have made Network Collective headline news.
Yeah, it didn't get pulled. And then some of the music that we have actually licensed for the behind the trivia. They put in copyright claims against it as well, and I had to go dig out the licenses and reply and be like, no,
my gosh.
absolutely not.
Wow. All right. So for those of you who guessed the SN 2010 from Mellanox, you are correct. So you guys are both winners. Preston and Laz are both winners. We don't play hardball here. We play softball. Just get the darn thing right and get me the message. All right. But this is a super cool switch. And this is why I thought it was going to be very hard for you guys to pull this off, because let me see if I zoom out again. From the vertical picture of the board, all you see is a stack of what looks like maybe old GBICs or something. It has sort of a wide form factor here.
I thought those were actually the QSFPs. So I'm looking at that, and I thought that those were QSFPs, and really the QSFPs are over to the side, and those are quad SFP ports. Right. Is that what that is? Yeah.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yep. So right here, these and what's so interesting about this is actually a stack of 3 ports. I don't know if you guys see that. You don't see that very often in switches. It's a 1 RU chassis, right? So this is 1 RU with a stack of 3 ports. How about that? So there's just nothing but a piece of sheet metal on top and bottom just at this section, right? Because there's not a space frame, so they just put a little piece of sheet metal there. So 3 stacks. And I believe
those are 3 individual ports, right?
Yeah, 3 individual ports. That's right.
So that's 18,
3 individual rows high. Correct.
18 total SFP ports and then 4 QSFPs. That's a really interesting form factor.
These are 100s, right? These are 100s, and I believe these are like 11025s. Actually, I'm just trying to remember, but I'm not reading it off of a spec book. So someone could call me a liar, and they would be right.
They'd probably be right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got some more pictures of this guy. This is a really fun one, and I like it because it's like I said, because it's new. Nice new piece of hardware. So again, here's sort of a 3/4 view from the overhead. And I remember Laz saying something in Slack about he has some concerns about the fans. I think maybe he was looking at this maybe for his org or for a customer, because the fans are sort of saddled sort of midway through the chassis, right? This is full depth, and both power supplies are open. And I guess this is going to pull the air through the front of the chassis. I think there might actually be air holes on the side. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the top of the chassis looks like. But it's going to pull cool air in from the front and blow it through the power supplies. Yeah, out of the mesh in the back. So that means it's going to take already hot air and put it on top of the power supplies. I mean, I guess that maybe that's one way to get out of having to put a fan on or in your power supply, right? Most power supplies, especially removable ones, come with an integrated fan. Maybe that's the purpose. I don't know. It's definitely a different design than what we're doing. Laz says airflow is back to front normally.
Yeah, but
so it looks like maybe in through the back.
No, because I mean back to front.
Out through the front.
It depends on how you're placing your gear. So a lot of network gear, it does do back to front from a rack perspective, but it's port ingress for air, because of the fact that there's a lot of people who mount their network gear on the back of the rack, because that's where the actual port, that's where the server ports are, is on the back, right?
Server ports, right?
Yeah. So if you were to do that, it would still be back to front airflow from a rack perspective, but you're going to ingress through the ports and egress through the power supplies, which I think is exactly what you were seeing there. And in this, I wonder, like, those are some pretty serious heat sinks on some of the gear on the board. And so I wonder if that's more passive cooling, like it doesn't need as much air, and that the heat there is really kind of dissipated by the time it hits the fans. You're not actually blowing super cool or super hot air. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's a new product, and we're looking at a couple of them where I work. So it's pretty cool.
I love this. So I wonder what the numbering for those ports would be: 0, 0 through 5, 1, 0 through 5, and then Preston. I love this. They're numbered via the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah. So Preston and Laz, both winners. Let's see if I can get a proper. I hit the applause button. It's not working.
I'm gonna have to do this for you again. And that's for Tony.
All right.
Tony, the lying softy Amish network engineer.
That's right. I'm the Amish network engineer.
Yeah, no, the lying. Softy,
My
because
dad
you
was
accept answers from anybody.
Yeah.
Amish network engineer. So
That's okay. My dad was an Amish electrician.
yeah, I bet he was.
All right,
boy.
so let's get into this week's. This week is 0324. So here we go. Break it open, baby.
Your computer's
right,
not in
so you
tune
guys
with
can
the sound effects. Do I have to do it again?
No, wait a second. What's going on?
There we go.
Close enough. All right, so this is going to be our naked hardware for 324. We will announce. I will post this on Twitter tonight. I hope you give you guys a week to find out an answer for it, and we will post winners next week. So good job, everyone. Good luck. And that's all we have for naked hardware.
Nice. That's a Sony VCR. That's what that is. That's what I'm putting it in.
Yeah,
for.
this one was part of a donated batch of naked hardware equipment that I'm also going to ask that if anyone out there has some old networking gear, has some hardware that they don't mind cracking open, taking a picture of the chassis, sending it over to Tony at networkcollective.com. Or if you're in the Network Collective Slack, just send it over in a DM. I would love to show your pictures up on naked hardware, and nobody is going to get that. Yeah, so this one was donated by Preston. He donated a lot to us. Well, a lot meaning a finite amount. He donated many, and we have gone through most of them. This might be the last one from the group that he donated. So this one you guys probably won't get. I don't know if I saved the best for but nevertheless, here it is.
Kevin Myers being timely with his MPLS network here. Running segment routing. Apparently it took him about 30 minutes for the packet to actually get here as it ran through all that complexity in his home network.
I was going to
finally respond to us talking about him and talking about MPLS. So
you know what it was? It was finally his network peeling back the 17 layers of encapsulation.
Yep. When he made it through
traffic.
The MTU tunnel that was like 4 bits that he could fit through at a time. That's why it took so long to get here. So I'm glad to see that Kevin finally is along for the ride.
And I also wanted to showcase a little bit, and maybe I'll do a little separate video, but this is the Network Collective swag bags that goes out to our winners of naked hardware, as well as some of our podcast participants. And I kind of wanted to crack it open and show you guys what's in here. This is a little networking tactical bag that Jordan picked out. So it's got a little mesh pouch in there with some Network Collective swag, some stickers and buttons and stuff. And also our sponsor, Path Solutions, sent me a whole box full of gear. So I'm including some of their stuff in here. We get the Path Solutions bottle opener, really cool piece of swag. Nice durable piece of metal there. I've used it all night. A little mini multi-purpose USB charger dongle. This actually seems, a little impractical because normally you'd want a long cable. But I have one on my desk that I use all the time for like the, oh crap, where's my cable? And like you just leave this clipped to your desk. And it's just there for emergencies, for charging your phone. Fits iPhones, fits Android. Some Path Solutions luggage tag that they give out. And one of my favorite things, look, everyone at my work knows I love a whiteboard. I love drawing on a whiteboard. You guys remember my old office? I had, a 20-foot wide whiteboard that I did floor to ceiling. Path Solutions also gave us a set of their whiteboard magnets. So they have their, the router, some of their tags and gear advertisements, switch, cloud, what's that? VoIP phone. Looks like another switch, firewall, and last one is a server. So you can put these right on your magnetic whiteboard and sort of draw with the dry erase markers in between them. Very cool little thing just to add a little touch of flair to your whiteboard drawings at your office. And very cool for us network engineers and operators. So anyone participating or winners of Naked Hardware will get an awesome swag bag. I sent out 7 swag bags this weekend. I still have about 2 more to send out. That'll get us all up to date. And then, of course, I have 2 more now, so I guess I'll be sending out 4. And then everyone will be getting those. I also have one more thing to add to them. That'll just have to be a surprise, I guess. Jordan and I have to figure out how to mail them.
You're not going to show them?
But Path Solutions sent me one other thing. I can. Yeah. Let me see. It makes a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's crunchy and soft.
It is I don't know if you can see it.
You can't.
That's funny.
Hold on.
That's
We're gonna turn off your chroma key here for just a second, Tony.
Go ahead.
You're gonna
That's
see
funny.
the green screen behind him. So there we go.
Oh, there you go. So this is a Path Solutions. Don't turtle your network. This is their turtle, and of course, because my green screen, you can't see it, and they are
now you see it.
Sealed in plastic.
Now you don't.
Yep. Now you don't.
Preston asked, do we also get mugs? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
I'm working on that. So right now I have boxes upon boxes of Naked Hardware coffee mugs that are sitting at my house. I have to send some to Tony so he can send them out for Naked Hardware. Hey, Tony, if you get me a list, I will get some out as well. But yes, we do need to get mugs out in the mail. So the mugs go out to the person who is first. And
that's right. The first place winner with the correct answer.
First place winner who does it correctly, as in responds to the tweet and uses the hashtag. I'm putting some caveats on the mugs. They're expensive. I'd love to give them to you, but play along. I love it. Down here, who was it? As Preston says, Twitter's hard. 280 characters, man. Twitter's hard. So then I do what I want.
Fair enough.
No mug for you then. That's the way it works.
You're in the right venue for it. Yep.
Well, I really want the mug. That thing looks nice. Yes, Preston, it is very cool. And also it is very not dishwasher safe because of the printing process. So just as a warning, if you do get one, I'll put a note in there as well. But I have a very droopy Naked Hardware Network Collective mug because we put ours through to test it, that we sacrificed because we figured it might not be dishwasher safe. So anyway,
at Network Collective, quality testing, quality assurance, high priority for us.
Yeah, we got it. We're not going to send you stuff that we don't understand what we're sending you. I mean, we also could have paid for the quality to not have this problem. Really what it was is the printing style. It's because we went full color with the logo and everything on there. It basically is just an adhesive, something that goes over the top. Versus if it was just like 2-color, then it would have actually been more permanently etched into the cup. So anyway, so Preston says, so if he's like, not dishwasher safe, not interested. Like, have to rinse out my coffee cup by hand. That's below me. That's too much. All right. On that note, I think it's time that we're going to wrap it up. Tony, this was fun. Even though, like I said, I started this with like, man, like I'm just not here. I'm exhausted. It's always fun. It takes 10 to 15 minutes in. I don't know about the Amish thing.
It was the hat, right?
It was
the hat.
The gunners. The gunners are what make this stuff. Yeah. No, it makes it not work. The gunners, it doesn't, to have modern blue light glasses, Amish beard and Amish hat. Yeah, you gotta get rid of the glasses. All right. And on that note, Tony, it's been lots of fun. I'll see you later. What was it? Lying softy, Amish network engineer or whatever.
Network engineer. That's
there.
Right.
You go. Everyone who was watched and participated and hung out with us, thanks for doing that. Thanks again to Darren for coming on and sharing the cool project that he's working on and kind of giving us a look behind the scenes to see how it works. And okay, that's just too good. Now that's going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the night.
Yes, I love it.
Laz wins the day for the earworm for sure. All right.
We can't even play like the intro sound effect or we'll get tagged.
That's right.
Like
that's right. Copyright,
the intro
please.
to the song.
For those of you who are watching, thanks so much for coming. If this was your first time, and there were a couple of people who were on for the first time, now they were here early. I highly doubt they hung around the whole time. But in case you did, in case this was highly engaging and you want more, like you just like, I need more of that, networkcollective.com. That's where you go. Networkcollective.com is where everything's at. So we have a podcast, go check it out. Obviously we do this, that's there. And you can find us on social media from there at Net Collective PC on Twitter, Network Collective Podcast on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find Tony. He's whatever his tag is there on the video. Show IP int brief. Just look for that. Although it's not brief. I did your thing.
Show Wimpin Bra.
Show Wimpin Bra.
Show Wimpin Bra.
Find us on social media. We'd love to connect with you. And if you watch this and you enjoyed it and you've been around for a while and you appreciate the content we do, would you consider being a supporter? It's not expensive. We don't ask for much, but it really does help keep things going. Helps us pay for all the stuff we need to make the show go. And so if you would consider that, that would be great. I think that's it. Tony, man, always fun. Always fun.
Always. Thank you, Jordan. Thanks, Darren. Right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. And we will see you later.